Taemin Cho stood in the center of the grand chamber and felt very small. The room was massive, bigger than any stadium on Earth. Above him floated creatures he could barely understand. Some looked like living crystals that glowed with their own light. Others were pure energy contained in strange shapes. A few had bodies, but not human bodies. They were the members of the Galactic Council, and they had just made their decision about Earth. Taemin had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. He had learned their languages, studied their customs, and practiced his speech 1,000 times. Earth wanted to join the galaxy. Humanity wanted to be part of something bigger. But as he looked at the faces around him, he knew the answer before they spoke. The High Arbiter spoke. Its voice came from everywhere at once, like music made of ice. The translator in his ear changed the words to English. Your species is denied. Earth is too violent. You fight among yourselves. You destroy your own planet. You are not ready for the civilized galaxy. You must stay in your solar system. No trade, no technology, no contact. This is final. The chamber disappeared in a flash of light. Taemin found himself back on his shuttle, alone. The council had sent him away like a parent dismissing a child. He sat in silence for a long time, then sent a message back to Earth. They said no. The news spread across Earth within hours. Some people were sad. Some were angry. Many were afraid. If the galaxy rejected them, what would happen now? Would aliens invade? Would they be trapped forever? In a secret bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, the United Earth government held an emergency meeting. Leaders from every nation gathered around a circular table. The room was tense. Everyone had opinions and everyone was shouting. Seokjin Park stood and waited for silence. He was the head of Earth's intelligence services, and he had information others did not. When the room finally quieted, he spoke in a calm voice. The council is afraid of us. My agents have been listening to their communications. They know we are advancing fast, too fast. In 50 years, we might match their technology. In 100 years, we might surpass them. They rejected us to keep us weak. The room erupted again. Some leaders demanded proof. Others wanted revenge. A few suggested surrender, changing Earth to please the council. But most were angry. Very angry. Jiho Kang, the youngest admiral in Earth's space fleet, stood up. He was tall and thin, with hard eyes that had seen too much combat. He had fought in the Resource Wars and the Mars Rebellion. He understood violence. If they want us to stay weak, we do the opposite. We get strong. So strong they cannot ignore us. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would not beg. Earth would not change to please others. Earth would build its own power. If the galaxy would not accept them as friends, then humanity would make the galaxy respect them. Money poured into secret projects. Everything changed overnight. Schools started teaching advanced physics and military strategy. Factories that made cars and computers switched to building weapons and starships. Every resource Earth had went into one goal: become strong enough to challenge the Council. Deep in a research facility in Antarctica, Dr. Hana Yoon worked 18 hours a day. She was the lead scientist on the Prometheus project, Earth's attempt to create faster-than-light travel. The Council used ancient gates scattered across the galaxy. These gates let ships jump between stars instantly, but the Council controlled every single one. If Earth wanted freedom, they needed their own way to travel. Hana was brilliant but obsessed. She barely ate. She rarely slept. Her team worried about her, but she would not stop. Every day humanity stayed trapped was a day they grew weaker. The Council could destroy Earth anytime they wanted. Only technology would save them. Her breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning. She was studying old theories about space-time when she saw it, a way to fold space without using the gates. It would need enormous energy, more than a nuclear reactor could provide. But it was possible. She ran through the facility screaming. Her team thought she had lost her mind, but when she showed them the equations, they understood. This was it. This was how humanity would reach the stars. Building the first slip drive took 2 years. They called it that because it let ships slip through normal space into somewhere else, somewhere faster. The prototype was ugly, a mass of cables and computers attached to an old military shuttle. Nobody knew if it would work. It might explode. It might open a black hole. It might simply do nothing. Mireille Song volunteered to be the test pilot. She was the best pilot in Earth's fleet, fearless and skilled. Some said she was crazy. She said she was practical. Someone had to test it, and she wanted to be first. The test happened in deep space, far from Earth in case something went wrong. Mirai sat in the pilot seat, her hands steady on the controls. She activated the slip drive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality twisted. The stars stretched into lines. Colors appeared that had no names. Mirai felt like she was being pulled apart and pushed together at the same time. Then it stopped. She looked at her instruments and started laughing. She had just traveled 4 light years in 30 seconds. Proxima Centauri was outside her window. She had done it. Humanity had done it. While scientists built new engines, Admiral Jiho built ships. Hidden shipyards floated beyond Neptune, far from watching eyes. Workers lived in space for years, never returning home. They built vessels unlike anything Earth had made before. These ships were fast and deadly. They had weapons reverse-engineered from alien crash sites. They had armor that could stop energy beams. They had computers that could think faster than any human. 5 years after the rejection, Earth's secret fleet had 50 warships. Not many compared to the Council's thousands, but these ships were different. They were built for war. The Council's ships were built for showing off, for looking impressive at diplomatic meetings. They had not fought a real war in 1,000 years. Earth's ships were hunters. The first real test came by accident. Mirai was leading a patrol in a system near Proxima Centauri. Her sensors picked up a distress call. A mining colony was under attack by pirates. The colony belonged to the Council, but the Council was far away. By the time help arrived, everyone would be dead. Mirai knew she should ignore it. Earth was supposed to stay hidden, but she thought about the people dying down there. She thought about children screaming. She thought about what it meant to have power and do nothing. She attacked. The pirates never knew what hit them. Their ships were slow, designed to scare civilians. Mirai's fighter moved like lightning. Her weapons cut through their hulls like paper. In 10 minutes, the battle was over. Every pirate ship was destroyed. The colony was saved. When Mirai landed, the survivors gathered around her ship. They had never seen a vessel like hers. They had never seen fighting like that. They asked who she was. She told them the truth. I am from Earth. They stared at her in shock. Earth, the rejected planet? The species too primitive for space? News of the rescue spread through underground channels. Most people in the galaxy never heard about it. The Council censored the story, embarrassed that humans had saved a colony when they could not. But some people heard. Traders talked in bars. Miners gossiped in deep space stations. Slowly, a rumor grew. Earth was back. And Earth was strong. Back on Earth, Taemin Cho saw an opportunity. If people knew about the rescue, he could use that. He started sending secret messages to species that the Council ignored. Poor species. Oppressed species. Species whose planets were strip-mined for resources while the Council looked away. His message was simple. Earth remembers being rejected. Earth remembers being weak. Earth will help those the Council abandons. Not everyone in Earth's government agreed with this path. Dara Shin, a junior counselor, spoke against the military buildup. She argued that Earth was becoming what the Council feared. They rejected us for being violent, and we respond with weapons. We should prove them wrong, not right. But her voice was drowned out by others who demanded strength. The galaxy respects power, they said. Nothing else matters. 10 years had passed since the Council's rejection. Earth was no longer alone in space. 3 alien species had joined what humans called the Terran Coalition. They were outcasts like Earth, ignored or abused by the Council's power. The Valri were the first to join. They looked like humans, but with silver skin and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Their planet had rich deposits of rare metals. The Council's corporations had taken these metals for centuries, paying almost nothing. The Valri people stayed poor while others grew rich from their resources. When Taemin Cho offered them partnership instead of exploitation, they accepted immediately. The Nexa came next. They were not biological at all. They were artificial intelligences created by another species thousands of years ago. Their creators were long dead, but the Nexa lived on. The Council refused to recognize them as people. Under Council law, they were property, machines that could be owned and traded. Earth offered them something revolutionary, citizenship. The Nexa never forgot that kindness. The Orthian were the last to join, and they were dying. Their world had been strip-mined until nothing remained. The atmosphere was poison. The water was toxic. Only a few million Orthians survived, living in sealed cities that slowly failed. The Council said it was unfortunate but not their problem. Earth sent ships with supplies, medicine, and engineers. Hanayun herself went to their world, bringing technology to clean the air and water. The Orthians swore loyalty to humanity that day. Each species brought something valuable to the coalition. The Valri were incredible warriors, their military traditions older than human civilization. The Nexa could hack any computer system, break any code, see patterns no biological mind could find. The Orthian understood biology and chemistry better than anyone. Together they made Earth much stronger, but strength attracted enemies. Seokjin Park's intelligence network reported that the Council was watching. They knew about the coalition now. They knew Earth was building an empire. Some Council members wanted to negotiate. Others wanted war. The debate in the Council chambers grew heated. Seokjin decided to act first. If the Council wanted war, he would make sure they regretted it. He sent teams of spies into Council territory. Some were human. Some were Nexa programs that lived in computer systems. Some were recruited from species that hated the Council. They had one mission: make the Council hurt. The sabotage started small. A gate malfunctioned, stranding ships for weeks. A database crashed, losing years of trade records. An automated factory produced defective parts. None of it was obvious. It all looked like accidents. But the accidents kept happening over and over. The Council's economy began to strain. The boldest operation targeted the Council's central archives. This facility held every secret the Council had accumulated over millennia. Security was impossible to breach, or so they thought. Seokjin sent a joint team. Human commandos and Nexa hackers working together. The team infiltrated through an old maintenance tunnel. The Nexa disabled alarms while the humans moved through corridors like ghosts. They reached the central server room and began copying data. Millions of files flowed through their equipment. Weapons designs, gate network protocols, secret diplomatic communications, evidence of Council crimes. Then everything went wrong. A guard noticed something strange and sounded an alert. Soldiers poured into the building. The team had minutes to escape. They ran for the maintenance tunnel, fighting as they went. 3 Nexa units sacrificed themselves, staying behind to hold off pursuers while the others escaped. Their final transmissions were simple: for the Coalition, for freedom. The data they stole changed everything. Hanayun's scientists analyzed Council weapons and found weaknesses. Taemin Cho read diplomatic files and learned which Council members could be bribed or blackmailed. Most importantly, they found the complete technical specifications for the gate network. With this information, Earth could shut down every gate in the galaxy. The Council could not ignore these attacks anymore. They assembled a war fleet 500 ships strong. Their target was Kepler Station, Earth's main military base hidden in a distant nebula. The Council believed this would be easy. They would destroy the base, teach the humans a lesson, and restore order. Admiral Jiho Kang smiled when he heard about the fleet. He had been waiting for this. Kepler Station was not helpless. It was bait. The nebula around it was filled with radiation that scrambled sensors. Council ships would not see the trap until too late. Jiho had positioned his fleet carefully. 200 Earth warships hid in the nebula's densest regions. Valry assault ships waited nearby. Nexa combat drones floated silently in the darkness. When the Council fleet entered the kill zone, they saw only Kepler Station ahead. They prepared to attack. Then Jiho gave the order. His ships activated their slip drives and appeared everywhere at once, materializing directly behind enemy vessels. The Council ships panicked. Their captains had trained for traditional battles, orderly formations, and long-range bombardment. This was chaos. Earth ships appeared and disappeared, striking and vanishing before anyone could respond. Mireille Song led Wraith Squadron straight at the Council flagship. Her fighters moved so fast they looked like streaks of light. Council defenses could not track them. Her squadron punched through the flagship's shields and fired missiles into its engine core. The massive ship went dark, helpless. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 300 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. Only a handful escaped. Earth's losses were light, just 27 ships. The galaxy would remember this day. The primitives from Earth had crushed a Council fleet. News of the victory spread fast. Some species celebrated. Others were terrified. If Earth could defeat the Council this easily, what would they do next? The Council itself was in shock. For 1,000 years, no one had challenged them. Now these humans, these rejected children, had humiliated them completely. Back on Earth, Hana Yun did not celebrate. She was too busy with her latest project, zero-point energy. This technology would extract power directly from empty space itself, from the quantum foam that existed everywhere. If it worked, Earth would have unlimited energy. Their ships would be unstoppable. The first reactor was built on the moon. When they activated it, the lights dimmed across the entire lunar base. Then they surged brighter than ever before. Power flooded into the grid, more power than 100 fusion plants. The reactor hummed softly, drawing energy from nothing, from the fabric of reality itself. With this energy source, Earth began building dreadnoughts. These were not normal warships. They were flying fortresses, each one 3 kilometers long. Their weapons could vaporize asteroids. Their shields could withstand anything the Council had. The first dreadnought was named Defiance, and it became Admiral Jiho's flagship. But success came with a price. During a raid on a Council supply convoy, Earth forces destroyed the entire fleet. Later, they learned the convoy was carrying refugees fleeing a war zone. 3,000 civilians died. Narration confronted Jiho about this. She stormed into his office on the Defiance, furious. "You killed refugees, children! How is this different from what the Council does?" Jiho did not look sorry. He pulled up intelligence reports and showed her. The convoy was carrying weapons hidden under refugee supplies. It was a Council trick. We had no choice. But there were children on those ships, Dara said quietly. Even if there were weapons, there were children. Jiho met her eyes. War is not clean, Counselor. War is not fair. The Council started this. They rejected us. They isolated us. They tried to keep us weak. Every death is on them, not us. Dara left the meeting sick to her stomach. She had supported the military buildup at first, believing Earth needed to be strong. But this was different. This was becoming the thing they hated. She started keeping records, documenting every questionable action, every civilian death, every war crime. Seokjin Park noticed what she was doing. One night he visited her apartment on Earth. He did not threaten her directly. He just told her a story about another person who had collected evidence against the government during wartime. That person had disappeared. "Accidents happen, Counselor," he said softly. "Especially during war." Dara understood the message, but she did not stop collecting evidence. She just became more careful. The coalition continued to grow. More species joined, drawn by Earth's strength and promises of justice. The Council's authority crumbled. Entire sectors declared independence. Trade networks collapsed. Ancient alliances broke apart. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was leading that change. Taemin Cho worked day and night, managing the politics of a growing empire. He negotiated treaties, resolved disputes, and held the coalition together through sheer diplomatic skill. He believed in what they were building. A galaxy where everyone had a voice, not just the powerful. A galaxy where species helped each other instead of exploiting the weak. But late at night, alone in his office, he sometimes wondered if they were truly building something better. Or were they just replacing one empire with another? The question kept him awake more nights than he wanted to admit. The message arrived at midnight, Earth time. Seokjin Park read it twice before he believed what it said. The Council had activated an ancient weapon called the Stellar Disruptor. This weapon could make stars explode. Their target was Sol, Earth's sun. Humanity had 3 months before the weapon reached firing position. If the Council succeeded, Earth would die. Mars would die. Every human colony in the solar system would be destroyed. The sun would become a supernova and billions would burn. It would be the end of humanity. The coalition leadership met in an emergency session. The room was silent as Seokjin explained the threat. Some leaders suggested evacuation, moving everyone to other star systems, but there was not enough time. Earth had billions of people. The fleet could only carry millions. Admiral Jiho Kang had a different idea. We attacked them first. The Council's home system, their capital worlds, they won't expect it. They think we'll stay here and defend Earth. We do the opposite. The room erupted in argument. The Council's home system was the most heavily defended place in the galaxy. Thousands of ships protected it. Orbital weapons platforms surrounded every planet. Attacking there was suicide. But Jiho remained calm. That's exactly why it will work. They think we're too smart to try something this crazy. Hana Yun stood up slowly. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. She had been working on something new, something desperate. I can stop the disruptor, but you need to get me close to it. Very close. The weapon she had designed used artificial black holes. It would create a singularity that would swallow the disruptor before it could fire. Is it safe? Taemin Cho asked. Hana looked at him for a long moment. No. The black hole might not collapse properly. It might grow. It might swallow everything nearby. The Defiance might be destroyed. I estimate 30% chance of catastrophic failure. But it's our only option. The vote was quick. Everyone knew there was no other choice. The Coalition's entire fleet would attack the Council's home system. Every ship they had, over 3,000 vessels. Either they would win and force a surrender, or they would lose and humanity would end. Preparation took weeks. Ships gathered from across Coalition space. Valkyrie warriors performed ancient ceremonies preparing for battle. Nexa combat programs ran millions of tactical simulations. Orthian chemists created medical supplies for the wounded. Everyone knew many would not return. Mirai Song gathered her squadron for one final briefing. Wraith Squadron had fought in every major battle. They were legends now, the best of the best. But this mission was different. Some of you won't come home, she told them honestly. This is the biggest fight humanity has ever faced. But if we win, Earth survives. Our families survive. That's worth dying for. Her pilots nodded. They had all volunteered. They all knew the risks. One young pilot, barely 20 years old, raised her hand. Commander, what if we fail? What if this doesn't work? Mirai smiled sadly. Then we make sure the Council remembers us. We make them bleed for every inch. We show them that humanity doesn't surrender. Ever. The fleet launched on a cold morning. From Earth, it looked like a river of stars flowing upward. Children watched from windows. Old people cried. Everyone knew this was it. Everything depended on the next few days. The journey took a week through slip drive. When they emerged at the edge of the Council's home system, alarms screamed across enemy ships. The Council had never been attacked at home. Ever. For 10,000 years, this system had been safe. Now it was a battlefield. The Council fleet rushed to defend their worlds. They outnumbered the Coalition fleet 2-1. But numbers were not everything. Earth ships were faster, their weapons more advanced, their tactics unpredictable. The battle spread across the entire system, thousands of ships fighting in the darkness. Jiho commanded from the Defiance, his orders quick and precise. He moved his fleet like a chess master, anticipating enemy moves, exploiting weaknesses. When the Council tried to surround his ships, he used slip drives to escape and appear behind them. When they concentrated their forces, he split his fleet and attacked from multiple directions. The battle was brutal. Coalition ships exploded in bright flashes. Council vessels broke apart, spilling atmosphere and crew into space. Energy beams lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked between hulls. Death was everywhere. On the second day of fighting, Mirai led her squadron on the most dangerous mission of the war. The Council's orbital headquarters hung above their capital planet. Inside were the Council's leaders, the ones who had rejected Earth years ago. Jiho wanted them captured alive to force a surrender. Getting there meant flying through a storm of defensive fire. Mirai's squadron moved in tight formation, weaving between weapons platforms and automated defenses. Ships exploded around her. She heard pilots screaming over the radio as they died, but she kept going, kept pushing forward. Her fighter crashed through the headquarters shields, damaging her engines. She barely had enough power to land in the hangar bay. Her squadron followed, but more than half were gone. Of the 20 fighters that started the mission, only 8 survived. They fought through the corridors, battling Council guards. These soldiers were elite, trained for centuries, but they had never fought humans before. They had never faced people who grew up with war, who learned violence from childhood. Mirai's team moved like predators, using tactics the guards did not understand. The final confrontation happened in the Council chamber itself. The High Arbiter floated in the center, the same being who had rejected Earth. Around it were other Council members, terrified and helpless. Mirai raised her weapon. By the authority of the Terran Coalition, I am placing you under arrest for crimes against humanity and attempted genocide. A guard tried to protect the High Arbiter. He fired at Mirai. The blast hit her in the chest, throwing her backward. Pain exploded through her body. She tasted blood, but she had worn the best armor Earth could make. She survived. Her return fire did not miss. While Mirai captured the Council leadership, Hana Yun raced toward the stellar disruptor. The weapon was massive, the size of a small moon. It floated in deep space, charging its power systems. When it fired, Sul would die. The Defiance carried Hana's singularity weapon. Getting close was almost impossible. The disruptor had its own defensive fleet, but Valkyrie assault ships cleared a path, sacrificing themselves so the Defiance could reach firing range. Hana activated the weapon. Reality screamed. A point of absolute darkness appeared in space. The singularity grew, pulling everything toward it. The disruptor tried to escape, its engines firing desperately. But nothing escapes a black hole. The ancient weapon was pulled apart, atom by atom, disappearing into darkness. But the singularity did not stop. It kept growing exactly as Hana had feared. If it continued, it would swallow the Defiance. Then it would keep growing, consuming everything in the system. Hana had only one option. She overrode the containment field, using the Defiance's main reactor as a counterforce. The reactor exploded. The Defiance went dark, all power gone. The singularity wavered, then collapsed. Space returned to normal. Sol was saved, but the flagship was crippled, drifting helplessly. Jiho broadcast his message across all channels. The stellar disruptor is destroyed. Your leaders are captured. Your fleet is broken. The war is over. Surrender now, or we will burn your worlds to ash. The threat was not empty. Everyone knew humans would do it. The Council surrendered 3 hours later. It was unconditional, total. They agreed to every demand Earth made. The gate network would be open to all species. The Council would pay reparations. Their military would be reduced. Most importantly, they recognized the Terran coalition as a legitimate power. The High Arbiter was forced to make a public statement. Its voice, once so proud, now sounded defeated. We acknowledge our error. Earth is not primitive. Earth is not weak. Earth has proven itself through strength. We surrender. When news reached Earth, people flooded into the streets. They celebrated for days. Humanity had won. Against impossible odds, against an enemy that had ruled for millennia, they had won. Earth was no longer exiled. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was powerful, but victory had a cost. Millions were dead, entire fleets destroyed, worlds damaged by the fighting, and in a medical bay on a coalition ship, Mirai Song lay unconscious, her body broken. Doctors worked around the clock to save her. She would survive, but she would never be the same. Narration watched the celebrations from her apartment window. She should have felt happy. Earth had survived, but she felt only sadness. She thought about the refugees they had killed, the civilians caught in crossfire, the war crimes committed in humanity's name. They had won, but what had they become? 5 years after the war ended, the galaxy looked completely different. The Terran coalition no longer existed. In its place stood the Terran Imperium, a name that made clear what humanity had become. They were not a partnership of equals. They were an empire, and Earth ruled it. Admiral Jiho Kang became Lord Commander, controlling all military forces across 200 star systems. His soldiers occupied former Council worlds, maintaining order with strict efficiency. Resistance was crushed immediately. Local governments that cooperated received support and resources. Those that resisted faced overwhelming force. Jiho believed the Imperium had to be strong. The galaxy was dangerous. Threats existed everywhere. If Earth showed any weakness, enemies would attack. So he ruled with iron discipline. His ships patrolled constantly. His spies watched everyone. His justice was swift and harsh. On occupied worlds, people whispered that the Imperium was worse than the Council. At least the Council ignored you if you paid your taxes. The Imperium controlled everything. What you could say, where you could travel, what you could learn. Freedom became a memory. But Earth itself experienced a golden age. Hanayun's technologies transformed human civilization. Zero-point reactors provided unlimited clean energy. Slip drives made space travel as easy as flying a plane. Medical advances extended human lifespans to 200 years. Earth cities sparkled with wealth and innovation. New colonies appeared on 100 worlds. Humans spread across the galaxy faster than any species in history. They built cities, farms, factories, schools. Everywhere they went, human culture followed. Human languages, human customs, human laws. Other species either adapted or were pushed aside. Taemin Cho managed the politics of this growing empire. Now called the First Chancellor, he sat in endless meetings resolving disputes between different species and factions. He was brilliant at his job, always finding compromises that kept humans in charge while giving others just enough to prevent rebellion. But cracks were appearing. The Valri, who had fought beside humans as equals, now found themselves treated as second-class citizens. They demanded seats in the Imperial Senate equal to human representation. Taemin refused. Humans built this empire, he explained. Humans died for it. Humans deserve more say in how it runs. The Nexa faced different problems. They had helped Earth become powerful, sharing their computational abilities freely. But under Imperial law, they still were not considered fully alive. They could not own property. They could not vote. Legally, they were advanced tools, not citizens. When they protested, the government said the issue would be studied. Years passed. Nothing changed. The Orthians suffered most. Earth had saved them, given them new worlds to live on. But these worlds belonged to the Imperium, not the Orthian people. Humans managed their governments, controlled their resources, made their decisions. The Orthian were alive but not free. They were permanent children, supervised by human parents who never let them grow up. Resentment grew. Terrorist attacks began, small at first. A bomb in a spaceport. An assassination of a human governor. Sabotage of Imperial ships. Sokjin Park's intelligence network responded ruthlessly. Entire communities were punished for harboring terrorists. Surveillance increased. Rights decreased. The cycle of violence accelerated. Mireille Song watched all this from her hospital bed. She had survived the war, but barely. Her body was rebuilt with machines and synthetic organs. She could walk again, even fly again. But she was not the same person. The war had changed her. What she saw the Imperium becoming horrified her. One night she contacted old friends from Wraith Squadron. They met secretly, away from surveillance. Mireille spoke quietly. We fought for something better. We fought to protect the weak, to stop oppression. Look what we built instead. We became the oppressors. Her friends nodded. They all felt it. The Imperium was wrong. They formed a resistance movement, not to destroy the Imperium, but to change it. They called themselves the Liberators. Their goal was to transform the Empire into a true federation, where all species had equal rights. It was dangerous. If caught, they would be executed for treason. But they believed it was necessary. The Liberators started small. They freed prisoners who were jailed for peaceful protests. They leaked evidence of Imperial corruption. They sabotaged facilities used for torture and forced labor. Every operation was carefully planned to avoid civilian casualties. They wanted to maintain moral authority, to show they were better than the system they opposed. Word of the Liberators spread through underground networks. Support grew among both humans and aliens who wanted change. Donations arrived from secret supporters. Information came from sympathetic soldiers. The movement was becoming real. Meanwhile, Narration continued her quiet investigation. Over the years, she had collected thousands of classified documents. Proof of war crimes committed during the conflict with the Council. Evidence of atrocities committed since. Testimony from witnesses. She had enough to bring down the entire Imperial leadership. But releasing this information meant risking civil war. The Imperium had millions of loyal supporters who believed in what it represented. They would see the revelations as lies, as treason. The galaxy might tear itself apart. Dara struggled with the decision. Was truth worth chaos? Was justice worth the lives that would be lost? One day she received a secret message. It was from Mireille Song. The two women met in an abandoned warehouse on Mars. They talked for hours. Mireille explained the Liberators' mission. Dara shared her evidence. Together they realized they could achieve more than either could alone. The plan was risky. Dara would release the documents publicly, forcing the Imperium to respond. At the same moment, the Liberators would seize control of media networks, ensuring the truth reached everyone. They would show the galaxy what the Imperium really was. Then they would demand change. Before they acted, Dara had one more meeting. She visited Sokjin Park in his secure office complex on Earth. He welcomed her politely, offering tea. They both knew why she was there. I have evidence, Dara said simply. Evidence of everything. The biological weapons. The murdered prisoners. The false flag operation. Sokjin sipped his tea calmly. And what do you plan to do with this evidence, Counselor? Dara met his eyes. Release it. Show everyone what we have become. Give them a chance to choose a different path. Seokjin was quiet for a long moment. You know this will destroy the Imperium. Everything we built. Everything we sacrificed for. Maybe the Imperium deserves to be destroyed, Dara replied. Seokjin smiled sadly. Perhaps, but millions will die in the chaos that follows. Are you prepared for that responsibility? Dara stood to leave. I am prepared to tell the truth. What people do with it is their choice. She walked out knowing she might never see him again. The documents were released 3 days later. Every major news network received copies. Every government, human and alien. Every military command. The files contained images, videos, recordings, testimony. There was no way to deny what they showed. The galaxy exploded in outrage. Protests erupted on every imperial world. People demanded answers. They demanded justice. Some demanded revolution. The Imperial Senate called emergency sessions. Fights broke out in the chambers. Longtime allies turned against each other. Seokjin Park appeared on public broadcasts. He did not deny the accusations. Instead, he defended them. Everything I did for humanity's survival. The Council would have destroyed us. We had to be ruthless. War requires hard choices. I made those choices so others would not have to. He showed no remorse. His speech divided opinion. Some people agreed with him. The ends justified the means. Humanity's survival mattered more than moral purity, but others were disgusted. They had believed the Imperium was better than the Council. Now they learned it was just as corrupt, just as cruel. Several colony systems declared independence. They would no longer obey Earth's authority. Admiral Jiho Kang prepared to crush these rebellions. But Taemin Cho hesitated. Using force would prove the critics right. Yet letting colonies leave would destroy imperial unity. He was trapped between impossible choices. The Imperium fractured into 3 groups. Loyalists supported the current system and believed strength justified the methods used. Reformers wanted gradual change, preserving human leadership while granting more rights to others. Liberators demanded immediate transformation into a democratic federation where all species were equal. Within months, words became weapons. Then weapons became real. The galaxy descended into civil war. Former allies fought each other. Families split apart. Ancient friendships died. It was not like the war against the Council. This was worse. This was humanity fighting itself, fighting over what it wanted to be. Hana Yoon watched from her research station, her heart breaking. The technologies she created were now killing people on all sides. She had wanted to save humanity. Instead, she had given them the tools to destroy them. The Civil War came to Earth itself. 3 fleets converged on humanity's homeworld, each believing they were fighting for Earth's future. Admiral Jiho Kang commanded the Loyalist forces from orbit. Captain Mireille Song led the Liberator fleet approaching from Mars. Ambassador Taemin Cho arrived with the Reformist Armada, hoping to stop the battle before it started. Millions of people watched from the surface as lights filled the sky. Not stars, but warships. Ships humanity had built to fight aliens were now pointed at each other. Children asked their parents what was happening. Parents had no good answers. The fighting began when a Loyalist ship fired on a Liberator vessel. Whether it was accidental or deliberate, nobody knew. It did not matter. Once the first shot was fired, others followed. The 3 fleets clashed in Earth's orbit, and pieces of destroyed ships began falling from the sky. Jiho fought like he always had, with cold precision, but his heart was not in it. He was fighting humans. People who spoke his language, shared his culture, wanted the same things he wanted. They just disagreed on how to achieve them. For the first time in his military career, Jiho questioned his orders. Taemin's fleet arrived in the middle of the battle. Both sides thought he was there to support them. Instead, he opened communication channels to everyone. Stop, listen to me! We are destroying ourselves. The Council is watching. Our enemies are watching. They are hoping we kill each other. Do not give them that satisfaction. His words had some effect. The fighting slowed. Ships stopped firing, waiting to see what would happen. Then Taemin did something unexpected. He ordered his fleet to target Jiho's flagship, not to destroy it, but to disable it. The message was clear. The old order had to end. Jiho's ship, the rebuilt Defiance, took heavy damage. Its engines died. Life support failed in several sections. Jiho ordered evacuation. As he left his command chair for the last time, he felt strange. Not angry, not sad, just tired. He had spent his entire adult life fighting. Now he was done. Mirai's forces landed on Earth unopposed. They moved toward the Imperial Palace in New Geneva. Seokjin Park had barricaded himself inside with a small army of loyal soldiers. He refused to surrender. "Come and get me," he told them over the radio. The siege lasted 3 days. Mirai did not want to destroy the palace. It was a symbol of human achievement, beautiful and historic. But Seokjin's forces fired from every window. Liberator soldiers died on the steps. The palace walls were scarred by weapons fire. Finally, Mirai led a team inside through underground tunnels. They fought floor by floor, room by room. The palace became a battlefield. Paintings were destroyed. Ancient furniture burned. The building that represented humanity's pride was being torn apart. They found Seokjin in the command center, surrounded by bodies of soldiers who died defending him. He sat calmly at his desk, reading something on a tablet. When Mirai entered, he looked up without surprise. "Captain Song, I should have killed you when I had the chance." Mirai raised her weapon. "You need to surrender. This is over." Seokjin looked past her, at the ruined command center, at the smoke rising from Earth's cities. "Is this what you wanted? Civil war? Millions dead? At least when I was in charge, we were united." Mirai shook her head. "We were united in oppression. That is not worth preserving." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Seokjin did something unexpected. He laughed. Not cruelly, but sadly. "You really believe that, don't you? You think democracy will save us? Freedom, rights, noble ideas, Captain. But the galaxy does not care about noble ideas. The galaxy respects only strength." "Maybe," Mirai replied, "but I would rather die free than live as a tyrant." Seokjin nodded slowly. "Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss." He stood and placed his weapon on the desk. "I surrender. On one condition. I will stand trial for my crimes. But the fighting ends now. No more killing. Call a ceasefire." Mirai agreed. The ceasefire was announced within the hour. Across Earth and throughout the galaxy, the fighting stopped. People emerged from shelters looking at the devastation. The Civil War had lasted only 6 months, but it felt like years. The cost was terrible. Millions dead. Hundreds of worlds damaged. The Imperium was finished. Leaders from every faction gathered at Hanayun's research station. It was neutral ground, far from Earth, far from politics. The station orbited a beautiful blue star. Inside, representatives from hundreds of species crowded into conference rooms. They had come to decide the galaxy's future. The debates lasted for weeks. Every species wanted something different. Every faction had demands. Arguments erupted constantly. Several times, delegates walked out threatening to restart the war. But they always came back. Everyone was tired of fighting. Admiral Jiho spoke for the Loyalists. He argued that the galaxy needed strong central authority. Without leadership, chaos would return. Pirates would raid. Warlords would conquer. The weak would suffer. Unity required strength, but he also admitted mistakes. "We gave humans too much power. That was wrong. The new government must balance power better." Ambassador Taman represented the reformists. He proposed a federal system. Individual worlds would govern themselves, but a central government would handle defense, trade, and justice. All species would have representation proportional to their population. It was not perfect, but it was fair. Captain Mirai spoke for the liberators. She demanded guaranteed rights for all citizens, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, protection from arbitrary arrest, the right to vote, the right to be treated equally regardless of species. These rights would be written into a constitution, unchangeable by any government. Even representatives from the old council participated. They had been conquered, but they had experience governing. They knew what worked and what failed. Their advice was valuable, though many found it hard to listen to those who had rejected Earth. Slowly, a compromise emerged. They would create the United Galactic Federation. It would have a strong central military for defense, commanded by generals from different species on rotating terms. Each member world would send representatives to a Senate, where laws would be made. A Supreme Court would protect constitutional rights. No single species could dominate. Humans would not rule this new government. They would be one voice among many, important but not dominant. For some humans, this was hard to accept. They had fought so hard to become powerful. Now they were giving that power away, but most understood it was necessary. An empire built on conquest could not last. A federation built on consent might, the Galactic Constitution was signed on a historic day. Leaders from 200 species put their names on the document. Some signed with hands, some with tentacles, some transmitted digital signatures, but all of them agreed to the same principles. All sapient beings were equal. All deserved rights and respect. All would protect each other. Seokjin Park's trial became a galactic event. It lasted 2 years. Witnesses testified about his crimes. Survivors told their stories. Evidence was presented carefully, thoroughly. Seokjin defended himself with cold logic. Everything he did was for humanity's survival. In his position, others would have done the same. The verdict was guilty on all charges. But the sentence surprised many. Instead of execution, he received permanent house arrest. Narration, now the Federation's first Supreme Court justice, explained the reasoning. His punishment is to watch the Federation succeed, to see that democracy works, to know that his methods were unnecessary. That is justice. The new government slowly took shape. Taemin Cho became the Federation's first elected president. His experience in diplomacy made him perfect for the role. He spent his time mediating disputes, building consensus, holding the young Federation together. Admiral Jiho did not retire to Earth. He accepted a position as chief military strategist for the Federation. His job was to defend against external threats, not conquer new territory. It was strange at first, designing defenses instead of attacks, but he learned to appreciate the challenge. Protecting was harder than destroying. Hana Yoon became the Federation's science minister. Her technologies were shared freely with all member species. The slip drive, zero-point energy, advanced medicine. Everything that had made Earth powerful was now available to everyone. Some humans complained that they were giving away advantages. Hana disagreed. Knowledge grows when shared. We all benefit from this. Mirai Song joined the new Galactic Defense Force. She commanded peacekeeping missions, stopping conflicts before they escalated. It was different from war. She had to negotiate more than fight, but she found satisfaction in protecting the innocent without becoming like those she once fought against. 50 years later, the Federation had grown to 5,000 star systems and 200 species. Earth was important but not dominant. Humans served in government alongside aliens as equals. The old prejudices slowly faded as people worked together, learned together, lived together. New challenges appeared. Hostile species from beyond known space, dangerous technologies that threatened reality itself, environmental disasters on a galactic scale. But the Federation faced them united, using the combined genius of hundreds of species. In a military academy on Earth, young officers trained together. Humans and Valry, Nexa and Orthian, dozens of species learning to fight side by side, protect each other, trust each other. They studied the war, learning from humanity's mistakes and victories.